We are going to take a look at the best adaptations of graphic novels out there. Spoiler, City Hunter didn't make it in my top 10. And yes, we are going to count manga and comic books as graphic novels. Let's clarify one more thing right away. This isn't a ranking of the most accurate adaptations or the ones that slavishly followed every line and shadow in the source material. Nope. This list is all about the movies that took those graphic novels and made something awesome in their own right. Whether they stayed faithful or went a little rogue. And there are only 3 rules. No Marvel, no DC, and no series. So brace yourselves for this top 10 list of the greatest adaptations of graphic novels. Number 10. In a frozen apocalypse where the last of humanity survives on a train circling the globe, each car holds a new layer of a dystopian nightmare. Snowpiercer is a wild ride. Literally. Captain America, aka Chris Evans, leads a rebellion from the back of the train to the front, battling corrupt guards and weird school teachers. Snowpiercer was released in 2013 and it's based on the French graphic novel Le Transperce. It keeps the same bleak setup and social satire, but dials up the intensity with stunning visuals and a surreal, almost darkly comic edge. The film is entertaining and thought-provoking, making a powerful statement about class and survival with every gut-wrenching step forward. It's dystopia done right, claustrophobic, thrilling and weirdly satisfying. And I can tell you, this is the perfect example where I like the movie more than the graphic novel. Just don't use your brain too much or it will hurt. Number 9. Judge Dredd. Dredd takes us to a brutal dystopian future where cops, judges, act as judge, jury, and well, you know the rest. Judge Dredd is played by Eomer, you know, the leader of the Riders of Rohan, aka Butch from The Boys, aka Karl Urban. And he's tasked with cleaning up a massive crime-ridden tower block controlled by a drug lord named Mama.
Shame!
Armed with his trusty helmet, which thankfully never comes off. Halo, I'm looking at you. And his signature scowl, Dredd proceeds to deliver justice one floor at a time in the most explosively efficient way possible. The movie was released in 2012 and it captured the violence and dark humor of the comics, keeping Dredd as the hard-edged anti-hero we love without trying to make him warm and fuzzy. This is pure stripped-down action done right, stylized, intense and unapologetically tough, just like Judge Dredd himself. 8. Hellboy, The Golden Army. This sequel was released in 2008, exactly 4 years after the first movie. And once again it was directed by Guillermo del Toro. A prince of the mythical world starts a rebellion against humanity in order to rule the earth. And Hellboy and his team must fight to stop him from locating the all-powerful Golden Army. Most part of the story was solely written for this movie. And fortunately it really worked well. Guillermo del Toro and Ron Perlman were an absolute dream team. It's very unfortunate that they were never able to create a third movie. Now, speaking of Hellboy and graphic novels in general, I've got a great place to recommend to you. Walt's Comic Shop, the greatest European store for graphic novels, manga and comic books. They've got a huge selection over there, making it possible for European citizens to get your hands on your favorite books. And with the code Cosmic Comic Corner, you will receive free shipping for your first order above 40 euros. Now let's continue with number 7. A History of Violence starts with a small-town diner owner, played by Aragorn, the one and only true king of Gondor, aka Viggo Mortensen. His name is Tom Stall and he becomes an overnight hero after taking down 2 would-be robbers in a way that's suspiciously skilled. His sudden fame attracts the attention of some shady figures, especially a scared gangster who insists Tom isn't who he says he is. Tom's dark past unravels and things get messy. The film was released in 2005 and it was directed by David Cronenberg. The film adapts the graphic novel's core story but dials up the psychological tension and gives it a quieter, more intense edge. Now it has to be mentioned that this film is not even remotely an action flick. It's more of a subtle drama with a slow pacing. With sharp performances and Cronenberg's dark, meticulous touch, it's a thriller with brains, brawn and just the right amount of grit. Now it has to be mentioned that the graphic novel is much more brutal than its adaptation. That being said, a lot of readers can be put off by the art style. On top of that, the comic is completely black and white. 6. 30 Days of Night drops us in a small Alaskan town where winter means a full month of no sunlight. So basically it's paradise for vampires. When the sun sets, a gang of bloodthirsty vamps rolls in, and Sheriff Eben, played by Josh Hartnett, has to keep a dwindling group of survivors alive in the dark, freezing nightmare. It's tense, it's gory, and it makes you think twice about booking any winter trips to Alaska. The movie was released in 2007 and is pretty close to the source material. It stays loyal to the core of Steve Niles and Ben Templesmith's graphic novel, capturing that brutal, isolated horror vibe with some minor changes that ramp up the cinematic terror. It doesn't hold back on the scares or the blood. It's a relentless vampire movie where the monsters don't sparkle and survival is about sheer grit. Perfect for anyone who thinks a cold dark night could use just a little more bite. 30 Days of Night is a great graphic novel, and its cinematic adaptation is almost perfect and very close to the source material. Let's get to number 5. Akira. Akira isn't just a movie, it's a neon-soaked fever dream set in a dystopian Tokyo that somehow still manages to look cooler than anywhere we'll ever live. The story follows Kaneda and Tetsuo, two biker gang friends caught up in a government conspiracy. There's a psychic experiment that has gone very wrong, and Tetsuo's journey from a regular rebel to a terrifying powerhouse with way too many body modifications is as intense as it sounds. The movie was released in 1988. And it was based on the manga that has been released between 1982 and 1990. Akira nails that gritty cyberpunk vibe and has some of the most breathtaking animation you'll ever see, and yes, even decades later. The movie set the bar high for sci-fi, animation and psychological thrillers, not to mention inspiring countless movies and games that came afterwards. Plus, it somehow manages to make motorbikes and apocalyptic chaos look like pure art. Number 4. And this is a true cult classic. The Crow is the ultimate gothic revenge tale. Brandon Lee plays Eric Draven, a musician that comes back from the grave to avenge his and his fiance's brutal murder. It was released in 1994, and unfortunately Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee, died on set in a horrible accident. It captures the dark tone and emotional depth of James O'Barr's original graphic novel while adding its own gritty cinematic flair. The Crow balances supernatural action with heart, delivering a beautiful tragic story of love, vengeance and redemption. And as much as I enjoyed this movie, it is nothing compared to the graphic novel. James O'Barr's original work is a true masterpiece. And from all the graphic novels being featured here today on this list, nothing comes close to The Crow. I would even go as far as telling you that this is probably my most favorite graphic novel of all time. And I think that both are just different enough to enjoy each one on their own. Number 3. Sin City is a neo-noir nightmare where the lines between hero and villain are as blurry as the rain-soaked streets. Based on Frank Miller's graphic novels, the film weaves together multiple blood-soaked stories of crime, revenge and betrayal, all set in the seedy underbelly of Basin City, with a star-studded cast and a visual style that's practically ripped from the comic pages. It's like watching a graphic novel come to life in black and white, with splashes of color for dramatic effect. The film was released in 2005 and the original artist Miller co-directed the movie. He was ensuring the film's hyper-stylized visuals stay faithful to the comic's distinct look and feel. Sin City is as visually striking as it is violent, and I can't think of any other adaptation that resembles the look of the original as perfectly as Sin City does. This movie was a visually stunning achievement, and it deserved all of the praise it got. And it is most definitely one of the greatest adaptations of a graphic novel ever. Which brings us right to number 2. Oldboy is a twisted, mind-bending ride where a man is mysteriously imprisoned in a small room for 15 years, only to be suddenly released and sent on a quest for revenge against those who locked him up. As he uncovers the dark secrets behind his captivity, he realizes that nothing is as it seems, and his search for answers take him down a horrifying rabbit hole. It was released in 2003 and it's based on the Japanese manga by Nobuaki Minegishi. And once again I prefer the film over the manga. The main character seems to be much more damaged, and the ending is definitely much more brutal. Oldboy is the perfect blend of psychological thriller, action, mystery with a plot twist that's so shocking you'll need a minute to digest it. It's a beautifully crafted, relentlessly intense film that leaves you questioning everything you thought you knew about revenge and maybe life itself. And now we are finally at number 1. The Fountain is less a traditional movie and more like a visual meditation on life, death and love across time. It intertwines 3 stories. A conquistador searching for the Fountain of Youth, a modern-day scientist trying to cure his wife's cancer, and a futuristic journey into space, all somehow connected. Hugh Jackman plays a man determined to defy mortality, which, as you might imagine, gets complicated. It was released in 2006 and it is definitely the most underrated movie I've ever watched in my entire life. And please, if you consider watching this movie for the first time, don't watch the trailer. It doesn't give much away, but it just looks awful, and it doesn't represent the movie at all. Now here's the thing. Technically, this film is not a comic book or graphic novel adaptation. It's based on the script by Darren Aronofsky, who faced a serious struggle back in the day to put this movie to life. So he said, if the movie studios with him, he's going to release the story at least as a graphic novel. And so he did in 2005. After fighting for it for 6 years, the film could be realized in 2006. But it was almost a tie between the release of the graphic novel and the movie. But in the end, both of them tell the same story. Now you might say, okay, this is not exactly a graphic novel adaptation then. And somehow I agree, but to me it feels like one. And I really think it deserves to be on this list.
Together we will live forever.
Let me know your top 10 of the greatest adaptations of graphic novels in the comments. That's it for today, and I'll see you next time.